Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Boardmasters with the Mullinses, and we are here with Disney Villainous and our review of the core box following the culmination of our playthrough series, which, of course, if you follow the channel at all, you will know that Stace inevitably won because she wins
2-1.
Everything. And so yeah, we just want to give our thoughts and feelings on the game itself. And as always, it will follow the usual categories in my review. So the art style and theme, the component quality, the accessibility, the replayability, and the overall gameplay. And so diving into the art style and theme, it's probably a pretty big win, I would say, for that, because, well, in terms of the theme, it's Disney.
Yeah.
And for us in particular, we love Disney, we love going to Disney, we love watching Disney. So anything Disney themed is going to be popular, and well, that was a large part of why I bought it for you for Christmas, because I thought I can use the Disney theme to encourage you to play more games with me. Ulterior motive, as always.
And it is the animated Disney theme pictures as well. It's not any of the real life new Disney.
Yeah.
So it is the Disney classic pictures and art styles that are on here.
Yeah, and I think the art style is great. They could have very easily just used screenshots from the movies, which would have looked terrible. But it's like they've done their own artwork, and I think it looks gorgeous as a result. Obviously mirroring famous scenes from the movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, they could have very easily just done screenshots, which generally look awful. The only issue I have with the theme, I guess, is, well, primarily, like for example, when I was Jafar, having to knock out Princess Jasmine or kill Princess Jasmine, who, despite being animated, was my first crush, was a bit of a struggle. It's like there are some heroes that I don't want to beat up. So you have to really summon up your villainous side to play at times.
I didn't.
No,
you quite won.
Probably. Although you said Robin Hood was one of your favourites, that was the one, and that was the game you did lose. So maybe subconsciously you didn't want to hurt Robin Hood. Who knows?
Maybe not.
Moving on to component quality, and it's okay. It's largely card based, obviously, and the cards are good quality cards. The boards are nice and thick, so they feel
like they would last quite a while.
Yeah, and they feel important and vital to the game. The power tokens are just sort of cardboard cutouts, and I don't know, I mean the cauldron looks kind of cool, but it is kind of cheap flimsy plastic and not really. I suppose that's why the expansions don't have the cauldron in, because it is completely expendable. It does look kind of cool on the table, but yeah.
You could just have it in a pot and it wouldn't really matter.
No.
So it doesn't matter about what it's in.
But I guess, I mean, the game, it's what, £20-25 game, so it's not a game where you're going to get minis the quality of Nemesis or what have you.
No.
But I do love most of these.
Yeah, they look very cool.
Yeah, I mean, Ursula's probably my favourite in the core box. I think she looks amazing. And they do vary, obviously, in terms of design. I'm not a huge fan of Jafar's. It's just sort of his hat and shoulders and...
Yeah, you have to remember who it is. It's not easily identifiable, is it?
Yeah, whereas like Maleficent and Ursula are cool. Queen of Hearts is really nice. But yeah, so the components I would say are good, but not outstanding, but what you would expect for the price point, really. And what do you think about the accessibility of the game in terms of difficulty?
I think it depends on who you play as. I think if we've got Alex to play with us, we would have to be careful which character we gave him to play.
Yeah, he looked good at the first time we got it out, and it was a bit too much for him, didn't he?
Though I think it does have to be at least probably somebody over the age of 12, or even higher. the understanding of what the item cards and how they affect each hero, how to actually manipulate the game, particularly with something like Ursula that has to have the unlock go back and forth,
and having no vanquishes.
And no vanquishes. It's binding contracts instead. You've got some issues with, Captain Hook has to have certain. You've got all of these different kind of conditions with each hero.
Yeah.
And some are slightly harder and some are slightly easier to play as.
Yeah, some of them play very similarly, like Captain Hook and Jafar. It's find a card in your deck to unlock that, which brings out a hero, which you then need to defeat. So they're kind of similar. I mean, Ursula's obviously very different, as we've said, because she has no vanquish action. I would say the Queen of Hearts is different in that you have to form your wickets and then take your shot
across the button,
which is
that's
a really fun and different way of playing. I don't think either of us have actually won a game as Prince John yet, where you're only trying to generate power.
I did right back at the first game we played.
Did you win that one? Oh, I thought I won. But you're probably right.
No, they played it.
He seems to be a harder one to play.
It's harder because you want to get
20 power, and obviously you're spending power to play your cards, and
it's very difficult to get 20 before the other person has finished. Yeah,
you've got your contracts and your jail orders and things, but they're quite easily manipulated by the Fate deck, whereas apart from Ariel, like for example, there isn't really many other heroes that interfere with your objective as such. You've got Triton who you've got to defeat, and then Ariel can pick up an item and really scupper you. But yeah, they all play very, very differently, and I think you could probably get a kid younger than 12 playing it, but I don't think they would be competitive in terms of truly understanding the game and being able to actually win a game unless you were
helping them.
Yeah. As we mentioned previously, the price point is low. It's very cheap. It's widely available in retail, so it's easy to get hold of. I mean,
it was quite big last year, last Christmas. Lots of people were talking about this game.
Yeah, it's a very popular game. And they obviously have Marvel Villainous as well. And obviously they're fairly cheap. They're IPs that are hugely popular, so attract a lot of buzz just from the name. Even people that obviously don't follow board games will probably discover a Disney board game and a Marvel board game if they're on the shelf. I know they're in the supermarkets in the US. We haven't quite got to that stage yet, sadly. But
no, we have about Monopoly.
Yeah, we have the Hasbro classics. So accessibility is very good. Setup and teardown is very quick. I mean, you pretty much tidied up the game at the end of last week's video and had to put it out again, just so it's on the table for the review.
Yeah, it's a couple of decks of cards, isn't it? And then
you sort out your Fate deck, you sort out your Hero deck, you fold up your board and put it away. So accessibility is a big win. In terms of replayability, what would you say?
I'd say it's quite good because even in this pack with 6 villains, you can obviously play different combinations. So even if you're only playing 2 people, I'm trying to figure out how many that is out of the top of my head now. 6 to the power of 2, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, is it just?
If you've got 36 different
2-player combinations
to play with, and how many boxes can give you 36 combinations of playthroughs to do.
And even on a very basic level, even if you only just wanted to play each hero once, you're getting 6 games out of it, and then obviously you probably want to play heroes more than once to get used to their different mechanics, and so there's plenty of play there. The game, we haven't been able to play it more than 2-player yet, and I think it's going to have a very different feel, because the very nature of the Fate cards is that in 2-player you're always fating your direct opponent, whereas in a higher player count you can choose who you fate, and there's an extra token so that if you've been fated in a 5-player game, to symbolise that you can't be fated straight away again, so you can't be ganged up on in that way. So it's going to have a very different feel at higher player counts, which is just going to add even more replayability. And then obviously, as we mentioned, there's expansions. So there is 4 expansions. We've got 3 of them. I can grab them. I mean, they have been shown on the channel already. No, we don't need to open them.
I just like looking at Scar.
But I think Scar's mini is probably my least favourite out of all of them. I think it's terrible.
So this one's got Ratigan,
which is probably my favourite mini.
A Scar, and Yzma.
Yzma from the Emperor's New Groove. So obviously that adds dramatically to the replayability because 3 heroes in each box. There's a potential, if you have all the expansions, you would have 18 heroes to play with. So that's an awful lot of replayability right there. And still at a fairly decent price point because the expansions are, well, when I bought these, I think they're around £15 to £18. Obviously, I guess it depends on stock. One of these ones are a bit more expensive, I think, usually, but I can't remember which one. I think it's the Evil Queen one.
And this one's got Pete, Cruella de Vil, and Mother Gothel.
Yeah, and then we've got the Evil Queen and Dr. Facilier from Princess and the Frog, and Hades, of course, from Hercules. And
so I like Cruella's.
Yeah, Cruella's got a great one.
Black and white slit.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Mother Gothel's. It looks nice, but I don't think it really
Doesn't really
identify it as Mother Gothel as such. But going on to the actual gameplay, it looks simple, but there's a lot of, I think, strategic depth in there. And there's a lot of manipulation of the board. You have to understand your objectives and understand what you're aiming for. So it's one that you need to take a little bit of time to get used to it, to master it, I would say. What do you think, Stace?
Yeah, I think I've probably played twice most of those in there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've played as Jafar yet. I think that's the only one I haven't played, but I've played every other hero. And some of them played twice just to get used to how they play.
And even then in the gameplay with Ursula, obviously you were having to
just remember what I was meant to
rely on the booklet, and you have to really zero in on your objective and understand how to get to that point using the spaces that are available on your board and how to manipulate the state to benefit you. So yeah, I think it's fun. It's quick to play. It's 25-30 minutes for a 2-player game. Probably longer for higher player counts. Obviously, depending on the heroes, some can go longer because some of them are a bit more involved. But yeah, in general, I think it's a very, very fun game. It's tricky to learn, but it's not heavy by any state. And I mean, getting into final thoughts, I guess, it's a game that I really like, but I don't love it, if I'm honest. I enjoy playing it, and I don't think I'd ever turn a game down a bit. But it's not a game where I think, oh, I really want to play Villainous. What about you?
I suppose so, yeah.
Well, you can disagree with me. Or
I think it's depending on which character you play. If you're more invested in a character that you like.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Really good at playing as that character and how to manipulate them. Or you've worked out a really good way of getting the cards that you want and how to put them down as quick as possible in the right order, then you could really learn to love it. Yeah.
I mean, I suppose that may not be as fun for your opponents if they're relatively new to the game and you're just getting to the end point as quick as you can. But there is that learning curve to the characters, which could lead to an unbalanced game depending on the experience of those who are playing.
Yeah. Cool.
But just overall, do you enjoy it? How do you feel about it?
I do enjoy playing, especially winning against you.
Oh, well, that happens in every game, so it doesn't matter which game we pick. That's true. I did win Game of Life.
But you thought that you would be very good at this.
I'd like to think I'd be very good at everything, but it rarely turns out that way in the world of board games. That's why I stick with co-op. I can't lose to you in co-op.
So the fact that I can play this quite easily.
Yeah.
And not be overwhelmed by the mass amount of rules and
yeah.
It isn't a game like that.
It's fairly lightweight, but there's some depth to the gameplay and some strategy, and the decisions do matter to an extent.
Yeah.
So what sort of score would you give it out of 10?
I don't know, 7.
Okay. I think I'd probably give it a 7.5.
Oh, so I just don't do halves.
Oh, right, okay. I do like halves.
Why the half?
I don't know. Well, I think in terms of games, I think I gave like Jumanji a 7 because I really like the rolling mechanic and things and the tension and the fun. But I think this is a big win on the theme and the art style and accessibility and the replayability. It's just maybe the actual gameplay isn't necessarily the type of game that I enjoy it, but I don't love it. So I wouldn't reach it to get it off the table over, say, a Honeybuzz or a Destinies or a Villagers. So there isn't really any justification for the half. I just felt like I enjoy it more than Jumanji.
Alright.
But maybe, and I think I gave Isle of Cats an 8. So I'd have Villainous probably a little bit under Isle of Cats.
Yeah, at least with like Isle of Cats is more of a family game because regardless, Alex can play Isle of Cats and beat us sometimes.
He can, yeah. It's a bit more flexible from that regard. But yeah, that is our thoughts and feelings on Disney Villainous. Again, I hope to get through these expansions at some point down the line, but who knows when we'll fit those in.
We will try.
We certainly will. I mean, we'll certainly play them off air because I want to at least try those characters, but it's when we can squeeze them in on the channel. But that's it really, so thank you very much for watching. Look after yourself, stay safe, and have a good one. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye.